My name is Julie and I am 33 years old.
Hi, I'm James and I'm 39.
I'm Owen and I'm 7.5.
To me, autism is a different brain path to everything. It's just a different way to see the world, a different way to experience the world, and it doesn't come with ease, I think, to a lot of people, not because there's something wrong with the way they think, but because the world is created for the majority of people who do not have autism, and it's a bit like being lost in translation, maybe. Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it.
Autism is a developmental disorder that affects people's sociability, and they tend to have narrow interests, but they're very focused.
So autism is something that makes it hard for you to understand others, do things the same way, and just like sometimes be the odd one out. Kinda.
Okay. Is it an illness?
No.
I don't really know what it feels like, because I think only people who have autism can probably answer that question properly. I can tell you what I believe, in my opinion, in my experience, some of the emotions that can be associated with it would be there is a lot of, there can be some anxiety with it, from trying new things, being in new surroundings. Anything new is difficult. There can be a lot of frustration and meltdowns and tantrums that go with it, because of difficulties to communicate in the same way. I always tend to think that it's almost like a different language that is non-verbal, that you need to learn to be able to communicate in an efficient way. I believe there is a lot of patience and a lot of determination to be able to continue constantly to thrive in a world that is not tailored for you. I really admire like James and the boys for that. I do find the world overwhelming a lot myself, and I'm just thinking, when everything is difficult, it must be very overwhelming. So I admire them a lot for this. And then there's a lot of happiness too, because I think when you manage to find ways to overcome those difficulties, you tend to celebrate even more than you would otherwise. You celebrate all the small victories. They have a lot more meaning sometimes.
I'm not really certain that's something you can put into words, because I don't know what it's like not to have autism, but I tend to become very focused on something to the exclusion of all other things. And I tend to get caught up in tiny details that seem to be unimportant to other people, but to me seem to be extremely important, and sometimes I get stuck and I can't move on to another subject or something else until the matter's resolved in my head.
It can make you feel left out, as I can't run very fast, so sometimes my best friend actually like plays games I have to run fast, and I can't run fast enough to play. And yeah.
So how does it make you feel?
It makes me like feel a tiny bit left and one tiny bit sad.
Okay.
At the same time.
Does it ever make you feel happy?
Yes. One of the reasons why it makes me happy is because number one, I'm bookworm with just general. Number two, my type of autism makes it easier for me to read. So I'm in the top reading group of the class. So it's still by better reading group, but I'm still the best one in the class.
So as a wife, I don't really feel any different. I feel like we communicate maybe in different ways, but I mean, that's just like any couple would have different ways to do things. So I've never really felt that different. As a parent, I don't usually feel different, especially since now most of the people that are around us on a regular basis do know that the boys have autism. So I don't feel like I have to justify everything the way I might have felt in the past. The times where I do feel that there's a difference is when something happens with one of my children and it happens in public, and people either look at, like, stare, or people would make comments in passing. I've had situations in the past where Alfie was having a meltdown in the street, sometimes because things were too crowded, sometimes because they were too loud, sometimes because he didn't get his way, and these do still happen. And people went past and would say things like, oh, this is what you get for spoiling your child, or oh, just another spoiled child, or my children will never do this, or things like this. This doesn't help. It really doesn't help. It doesn't matter the reason of the tantrum. There's no way it will ever help.
I've been aware ever since I was very young that there was a chasm of understanding between me and other people. I knew that they had thoughts and feelings, but I couldn't tell what they were, and I knew that they couldn't understand me either.
Well, one way it makes me feel different is that a lot of children like play tag and hide and seek and a lot of games like that. But I'm more into video games, but some I like a lot, like, for example, The Escapists.
Yeah.
2 is one, because we got that newly on another new device, the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
US 1.
So is your specific topic you love talking about video games, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much I talk about video games a lot. I even I dream of becoming a video gamer YouTuber and make pretend YouTube videos every single day to get ready.
I love how fascinating it is for me. I learn new things every day, either because Eoghan tells me a random fact that day, like the fact that an octopus has 3 hearts and can lay so many thousand eggs a week. I can't remember. I might need to ask him again. I forgot. There's so many facts like this that come up. I love how it helps me see the world in different ways, and I'm insisting on the ways. I think the three boys in my house do see it in different ways, and I love to have my thinking challenged all the time, and this is a good way to do it, really. I learn new things constantly. I constantly have to use my imagination to find ways to cope with certain situations, and this is something I like to do. I love how it gives me a different insight in different issues. Yeah, I just really enjoy it, and I like the way that we have created this little bubble in our house where everybody can be themselves fully, and I feel in a way it has allowed me to embrace myself more as well as a person, and this is certainly a good thing.
It's what makes me me and not other people. I have a very idiosyncratic view of the world. I tend to ask questions and then people stand there and scratch their heads, well, we didn't think of that, or so I have a point of view that brings out the unusual and the strange in a situation.
Well, it helped me read really fast.
The hardest thing about autism, I think, is those times where I have my children in front of me who are really, really upset about something, and I do not understand what it is. And even when they try to explain, I can't, it's not something I can understand the concept of. or for Alfie, because he cannot explain, having to guess and seeing him becoming more and more and more distressed as I'm trying to guess and getting it wrong. This is certainly the hardest thing. Or seeing them struggle with things that other people take for granted at times. It's a hard job. Having to constantly adapt everything you do. Spontaneity is virtually non-existent when we go out, for example, and it's something that's hard to give up in a way, and I took for granted before that. Everything has to be prepared, like we have to prepare them for everything, otherwise if things don't go to plan, that's when it gets very tricky. So it's just having to constantly adapt everything you do to make sure it goes as smoothly as possible. I'm very happy to do it, but I'm not going to say it's easy.
The most difficult thing is not understanding other people, because even when other people think they're being very clear or plain about what they want, I will just have no clue what they're going on about. And also similarly, other people find it difficult to impossible to understand me, so they make lots of assumptions which are almost always wrong.
Well, one of the things is some types of autism make it hard to keep calm in crowds. And there's other stuff, but I can't remember them.
If you've just been diagnosed yourself with autism, I would like to say that you don't need to change for people. You can be yourself. You just need to find those people around you that will get you and will allow you to be you. And to those who don't get you, find a way to teach them how to get you, because it's not always straightforward for people, but it's not impossible either. It's very, very possible actually. And I think more and more people are starting to know about autism, and more people are starting to learn about it, and the more people know about it, the easier it will get for anyone who has autism. If your child has just been diagnosed with autism and you're feeling a bit overwhelmed and you're feeling like you've been bombarded with information, we've been there. We know what it feels like. There is so much information out there, and my best advice would be do your research, follow your gut instinct all the time. I do that with my children all the time. Trial and error is the best way to go about it. Something will work with some children, something will not. Don't assume something is not going to work until you try it. Give it a shot, and if it doesn't work, it's okay. Just you scrap it, you move on to the next step. But sometimes some little things that seem so silly to us are the things that ended up working. So try not to dismiss any advice you're being given without trying it, maybe. And surround yourself with people who do understand this and who will support your children as well as you.
It's a part of you. It makes you what you are, and it makes you different, but it doesn't make you wrong.
Well, one of the ways you could do it is that it might be a good thing. You can say that because they might do stuff better than other children.
Is it like a superpower in a way then?
Yes, but it does have some downsides.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Can you learn to deal with the downsides?
yeah, because yeah.
Well, the first advice is don't judge people in general, because you don't know what they are going through. And some of the ways autism is showing can sound very odd or feel very odd to some people. And that's okay. But remember that there's usually a very good reason why somebody is doing certain things in a certain way. One thing to keep in mind, if you meet anyone who announces to you, like somebody around you, that their child has been diagnosed with autism, many people, their first answer for me was, "I'm sorry." And this is, I'm just always wondering, sorry about what, really? So instead of saying I'm sorry, said, "Oh, okay, if there's any way I can help at any point, please let me know," or something like that. If you want to help, offer your help. If you don't know how to help, ask how you can help. And if you do not know a lot about autism and you find this topic a little bit daunting, ask questions. Don't be scared of asking questions. I don't think anyone would feel offended about it. And if you're not sure, just say, is it okay for me to ask you a few questions because I don't know too much about autism? Nobody's going to get offended at that, really. And if they don't feel like they can answer, they might just say that, and that's okay. Or they might direct you to something else for you to find out about it. But yeah, just don't judge and try and see the amazing side of it, because if you don't, you would actually be missing out a lot.
Not assume that if I can't look them in the eye that I'm being rude or untruthful, that they need to modify how they communicate for me to understand, you know, what it is they want, and accept that sometimes I'm going to go off on a tangent sometimes, and they need to find a good way to rein me in and bring me back to the topic rather than allow me just to go off on whatever tangent interests me.
Well, step number 1. Ask someone who has autism what it's like to have autism. Number 2, then ask how he could help. Like he or she could be helped. Step number 3, try and do that to make life for people with autism better.
I was only diagnosed last year after my youngest son was diagnosed, and we went to my mother and said, you know, the doctors have asked us to keep an eye on his behaviour and see what happens. And my mum said, well, that was you when you were his age. I think there's going to be a lot of people, you know, in my situation that they're only going to find out now, but it's going to explain a lot of, you know, whether they've had problems all their life. And don't avoid it because it's something you're afraid of. Whatever answers you get, it'll only aid your understanding and help you going forward, because ignorance and fear will do far more harm to your life than a diagnosis in a drawer somewhere.
If you could have a magic wand that would take your autism away, would you use it or not?
That only depends if I can like use it on certain parts and not all of it.
If you had to use it on everything or nothing, what could you pick?
This is a really hard question. But things that will be hard for me to read and it will go down groups. This is so hard. Then.
Well, do you know what? I'm going to make it easier for you.
What?
There's no magic wand. So are you happy enough to keep your autism for now?